All right, let's talk about a project that's standing right on a knife's edge. It's called Qubitcoin, and it's either about to change the game for crypto, or, well, it's just another fascinating but failed experiment. The whole thing really boils down to one single high-stakes question.
You know, for years, the biggest knock against cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin has been the mind-boggling amount of energy they burn just solving random math problems. Sure, it keeps the network secure, but you gotta ask, what if all that incredible computing power could actually do something useful? Well, Qubitcoin says they figured it out.
So how do they do it? The whole idea behind Qubitcoin is a total flip from traditional crypto mining. It's not about generating work just for security's sake, it's about taking all that raw computational power and pointing it at something productive. They've got a name for it, hybrid compute proof of work. And honestly, it's pretty simple when you break it down. Instead of miners having their GPUs just crunching numbers for the sake of the blockchain, they're doing real, actual scientific work. We're talking complex quantum simulations, training AI models, that kind of stuff. The mining itself is a contribution to science. It's a brilliant two-for-one deal.
Okay, that all sounds amazing on a slide, right? But is it just a bunch of marketing hype? Let's dig into the evidence, the signals from inside the network that suggest something very real is going on under the hood here.
So check this out. The network's hash rate, its total computing power, recently shot up from 45 to 65 terahashes per second. Now, normally, a huge jump like that means one thing. A ton of new, expensive hardware just got plugged in. But that's not what happened here. All of that growth came from software improvements alone.
And this gets to the very heart of it. Miners on this network aren't just in an arms race to buy more and more powerful machines. They're actually getting smarter. They're finding gains by tweaking their software, by fine-tuning their unique algorithms, their solvers. This tells you the work they're doing is genuinely complex, not just some brute force guessing game. And as a bonus, it means their pricey hardware stays useful for way, way longer.
And it doesn't stop there. The network has some other really strong fundamentals going for it. This bring-your-own-solver model means there's a constant competition for the best algorithm to win, which keeps things innovative and stops one group from dominating. It's also nicely decentralized, and, this is key for miners, it has a predictable Bitcoin-like reward system.
But, and this is a big but, it is not all smooth sailing. The very thing that makes Qubitcoin so exciting, all that complexity, is also its biggest weakness. And this creates some serious headwinds for the project.
I mean, let's be real. Terms like quantum simulation and multi-GPU coherence, which is basically just getting a bunch of processors to play nicely on the same problem, that's not exactly easy stuff to wrap your head around. It's a super steep learning curve, and that makes it incredibly tough for new people to jump in and understand what's really going on. Naturally, that breeds a lot of skepticism.
And you know what happens when people are confused, right? It creates the perfect breeding ground for fear, uncertainty, and doubt, or FUD, as we call it. When a project is this complex and doesn't have simple, easy-to-point-to metrics, it becomes a sitting duck for critics who want to just write the whole thing off as vaporware. And on top of that communication problem, you've got other pretty serious risks. The network relies almost entirely on NVIDIA GPUs, which is a big hardware bottleneck. Some of the most important code hasn't been independently audited. It's also fighting for attention against other projects throwing around the word quantum, and that super flexible solver system, yeah, that could potentially open the door to some nasty exploits. So what we have is this incredibly powerful but deeply misunderstood technology that's facing a wall of doubt. How in the world do you cut through all that noise and prove you're the real deal? For Qubitcoin, everything, and I mean everything, comes down to one single make-or-break day. All the theories, all the arguments, all the skepticism, it is all building towards this one moment in time that could either validate the entire vision or sink it. That date is November 22nd. The team is holding a live demonstration at MIT. This is their one shot to prove to the world, in public, with everyone watching, that this system isn't just theory, that it actually works. And they can't just get up there and talk. To call this a success, they have to nail 4 very specific benchmarks. 1, they have to prove that real, quantum-inspired work is actually happening. 2, they need to show the raw numbers, the computational throughput. 3, they have to demonstrate that multiple GPUs are all working in perfect harmony. And finally, the most important one, they have to prove that all this work is actually useful for something. Now, if they can pull this off, oh man,
The payoff would be massive. It would completely silence the doubters and change the entire story around Qubitcoin overnight. It would go from being seen as just another GPU coin to being the world's first verifiably useful scientific compute blockchain.
So when you piece all this together, you see a project that is truly at a crossroads. There are two very, very different futures waiting for it, depending on what happens next.
The stakes for this MIT demo really couldn't be any higher. If they fail, Qubitcoin probably fades into obscurity, a niche, experimental project that never broke through. But if they succeed, well, success means it could become the bedrock for a decentralized high-performance computing network, a totally new kind of utility for the world.
So what's the final takeaway from all this? The tech itself, it seems legit. The data, the performance gains, all the signs point to something genuinely new happening here. Qubitcoin's biggest problem isn't the engineering, it's the communication. It's about proving its value to the world in a way that nobody can deny.
The technology is ready. The stage is set. The only question left is, will it pass the test? On November 22nd, we're all going to find out if Qubitcoin is just another cool idea, or if it's the start of something genuinely useful.